Well, hello, Dr. Michelle Bengtson. How are you this afternoon?
I'm great, Joni. How are you?
I'm good. So it's kind of cool how technology, we can talk to you from Iowa and you're down there in Texas. How's the weather?
Oh my gosh, it's hot. What's it like in Iowa? Is it hot there?
It's actually hot here too. So, but you have some exciting things. We met back in April, I think, and you had some exciting things happening. And that's what we're going to talk about today, something that's going to happen on the 16th of August. So it's a new book. So kind of tell us about this new book.
Well, I have discovered that publishing a book is a lot like delivering a baby. It's like a very long labor and delivery. But I'm excited because I'm like a proud mama. The book is Hope Prevails, Insights from a Doctor's Personal Journey Through Depression. Depression is one of those things that most people don't realize it, Jenny, but it's going to be the world's greatest epidemic by 2020.
Yeah.
So there's a huge need for help and hope in that area.
Wow. And it affects people, and I've grown up in the thinking that we don't talk about it. We don't talk about depression, but it's becoming more prevalent, just as you're saying, that the epidemic, we're seeing public figures succumbing to depression. So what do you see that we need to, as people who maybe suffer from depression or people who care for somebody that has depression, what do we need to do? What are the signs that we see, and how can we help them?
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind is that depression doesn't present the same way for everybody. You know, when I'm a neuropsychologist, and so people come to my office for assessment and diagnosis of any of the mental health conditions. And they're frequently surprised, Johnny, when I come back and I tell them that they have depression. And part of the reason they're surprised is because most people think that to have depression means that they're crying all the time and they can't get out of bed. And that's the case only for a small percentage of people. For a lot of people, when they're depressed, they're irritable, or they're snappy, or they get frustrated, or they just lack motivation. For some people, they lose interest in the things that they previously found enjoyable, and they just don't feel like getting out and being with friends anymore. Or they'll experience a change in their sleep habits or their appetite. Their motivation will change. And sometimes with it comes a personality change. But all of these symptoms don't occur in all people at all the time. And what's most interesting, I think, is that sometimes it's our friends and family that will pick up on the changes before we see them
before we see them in ourselves, huh?
They're picking up on something that you're just not seeing in yourself yet.
Wow, yeah, and I can see that, yeah, when somebody changes, especially, I know as a parent we need to be watching our young people, because that's a really big one. And so now I want to get in, and if you don't mind, I know it's personal, but you have written a book. So
nothing's personal anymore. It's all going to be out there.
How did God lead you into writing this book? I guess because it would have had to been Him to lead you to open up so much and to share your journey with everyone.
It was definitely God leading me. I would not have chosen to do that because I do tell my story. This book is really written from two perspectives. It's written as a neuropsychologist with 25 years of experience in the mental health field, but then it's also written from the perspective of me as the patient, someone who's gone through it. And that's what a lot of people say is different because many people who have read it already, the advanced copy, have said, it's like you're in my head. When I first felt the Lord's prompting to write this book, it was in large part because I'm so frustrated because I can only reach a few people at a time in my office. And yet there are so many people suffering. And so I really felt like the Lord was saying, I want you to write a book to help people going through depression. So I was like, okay, Lord, if that's I first thought He wanted me to write a book for parents of special needs kids. I thought that was the direction we were going in. So when He really let me I was like, okay. And then He said, and then I want you to share your story. And I thought, well, okay. But at that point, really all I had gone through was postpartum depression. And I say only, and I don't mean to minimize it, but that was not the worst that I would go through at that point. That was hard, but that was time limited. And so I said, okay, I can share that, but little did I know that what that meant was that I was going to go through the worst stage of my life. And that was shortly after I agreed that I would write this book. So you never exactly know what you're going to go through when you agree to do something for God. And what the Lord showed me was that all the answers that I'd been using with my patients up to that point, while they were very helpful, things like medicine and therapy and diet and exercise, they were helpful, but they were insufficient because we weren't addressing the spiritual root. And if you don't address the spiritual component of anything, of depression or anxiety or attention problems or whatever, if you don't address the spiritual side, you're really just putting a Band-Aid on it. It was only when I started addressing the spiritual component that things started getting better. And that's really what I address in the book, is the spiritual aspects of depression and how do we circumvent that.
Wow. Because you're right. What is life without hope in Christ? Very true. Yes. Now, how has the book and your experience been with your other colleagues? I mean, how are they responding to your mission to spread Jesus Christ to your patients as a solution for depression?
Some completely do not understand. Psychology is a very secular profession with the majority of my colleagues. There are some that are really on board and are really excited and say, this is what we've been needing for a very long time. But it's the minority that are saying that. Many don't see the partnering of faith and psychology together. For me, I can't do anything but marry the two. Now, I don't always bring out my Christianity and my faith in the session unless the client brings it up first, because we're bound by ethics. But once they open the door, man, I'm able to jump in there and tell them what I know.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I'm always in there praying and asking for that open door and asking how I can phrase things so that I can bring about hope in the session.
Wow. So now the book comes out soon.
August 16th.
And you have some exciting things. You have, I know, a book launch right there at Barnes & Nobles that you're going to have a book signing. And so now we've touched on a few things. I thought one of the points that you brought out, sharing with Positive Note Magazine, you had brought out how to regain your joy and peace. And so maybe somebody's watching this right now and, maybe they're seeing another therapist or something, but how can they regain that? How can they find that peace again?
One of the most crucial things to do to regain it is to start recognizing and paying attention to the lies that we've believed. The enemy seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And so he seeks to steal our peace and kill our joy and destroy our identity. And that is really the crux of the first half of the book. And it's based on John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But the second half of the book is based on the second half of that verse, and that is that I have come that they might have life and have it to the full. But we have to recognize we have a very real enemy, and he is still trying to steal from us. He's trying to kill us. And so he does that primarily through our thoughts. And he introduces lie after lie after lie, and that is why God says in his word we have to take every thought captive. And we have anywhere between 30 and 70,000 thoughts a day. So that is a lot of work to take every thought captive. Wow. So we have to listen, pay attention to the thoughts we're having, because that's the first place that we lose our joy, is in listening to the lies of the enemy. And it can be something so subtle as listening to the lie that says you are just so stupid. And it will come that fast. And if we don't counteract it with the truth, then we've come into agreement with it.
Wow. So the truth and the word. So that's another, we need to be in the word so we can have the word in us, right?
We do. Because, God gave us the Holy Spirit to remind us of truth. But he cannot remind us of what we have not already heard.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big one right there. A lot of people go through life just with feelings, but we need to get that word. So so glad you're imparting so much information on this. And now you don't just talk about your book. Let's go into your private practice too. You meet the needs of others. I know that you have a special place for ADHD and, special needs children. Give our viewers just a little taste of what you do in that aspect.
Well, my private practice is not limited to a certain age group. So I see anywhere between 3 months and 103 years old. So when someone comes into my office, it's usually for an evaluation so that I can help assess and determine what someone's accurate diagnosis is. So I might see someone one day that has a diagnosis of ADHD, and then the next day it would be a post-concussion syndrome. The next day it might be a stroke patient or a dementia patient. The whole goal to assess for brain functioning. So brain functioning to see what's going on in the brain that's impacting emotions and behavior. And then from there, then we figure out an appropriate treatment plan, whether it's medication or it's counseling or it's diet and exercise. But always we have to pay attention to what our thoughts are and what we're listening to, because what's going in is coming out.
Yeah, and it all goes back. It all goes back to your book, Hope Prevails, because in any of those areas, Satan can use those things to pull us down. So how amazing to have this book. So how can our readers get a hold of this? I know that obviously they're going to be able to go to Barnes & Noble. Can they purchase them on your website, or where else can they
get them? They can go to Dr. Michelle B. That's 2 L's, drmichelleb.com. And on my website, there are other resources. I do 2 blog posts a week. One is more of an inspirational blog post, and one is Ask Dr. B, which is a column where readers can write in and ask questions, very much like the questions you're asking, and I answer them right there.
Well, I've been on the website, and it is, for our viewers, they need to just go on because you have a wealth of resources, things that are very powerful for them to check out. So August 16th is when it hits the book stand, so we can get the book then. And I know you're also available for public speaking. Is that something also that you're going to be doing with the book?
Yep, I'm teaching a 3-week class coming up, basically 3 weeks on Hope Prevails. And I speak a lot on any of the mental health areas, but basically I like to speak on overcoming adversity and, how can we really find the hope that is offered so that we can overcome life situations, because we all have those times in life where we just meet up with those trials and we just need to know, how do we get through?
Oh, wow. Okay. So they can also go to your website to contact you about the speaking engagements, getting the book, and for resources. And so if you could just leave our viewers with one nugget of your amazing thoughtfulness, what would it be today?
I think everything that I talk about, write about, can be summed up in one thing, and that is that it's not over until God says it's over.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Michelle, it has been our pleasure to have you on Positive Note today. Keep being amazing and sharing this story of hope with everyone you meet, and we look forward to being just a small part of that share. You have a great night, and we hope to talk to you soon.
That's great. Thanks, Joni.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.